Hello, Loveland. I'm Mike Meldon, and this is your Loveland Weekly Update, brought to you by Gina Dubell-Smith, eXp Realty, and Stone Pillars Farm. Last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with the founder of the Nest Community Learning Center, DeVol. Van and I discussed her life and her inspiration for starting the nonprofit that has become an integral part of our Loveland community. We also talked about the impact of Nest and its upcoming annual fundraiser, Dancing with the Stars, that will be held Friday, October 18th at the Oasis Golf and Conference Center. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
I've been an educator my entire life. Was very fortunate to grow up overseas. My dad was with a multinational Canadian company. So I lived in 7 different countries before I graduated from high school. And I didn't look like everybody else. I didn't talk like everybody else. I didn't quite understand the customs. And as a kid, I can remember hating the food. And I saw poverty. My parents were really big about giving back when we were overseas. And as a kid, I didn't quite understand things because the poverty was so stark. And it was always the kids, and it was always the kids' eyes that just sort of haunted me, like they were hopeless, or I didn't have words for it back then. Sure. But anyway, my parents sent me, I graduated from high school in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and my parents sent me to go to university in England. I had relatives there, and I was that girl in high school. So they figured if I got in trouble, at least I had somebody. They were all the way in South America. At least there was some family out there that was going to, bail my butt out. But anyway, my first, I went to school in Oxford, and then I went to the University of London teaching college, which was called First Down. And my very first teaching assignment was in a really low-income part of London called Brixton. And Brixton, very much like over the Rhine would be to Cincinnati. Now it's the place to live, just like, over the Rhine.
Gentrification.
And my very first classroom, I had 7 and 8-year-olds, and they were all immigrant kids. They all, they didn't look like anybody and each other. They didn't quite understand the language. A lot of them, the customs were weird and different, and they hated the food. And I thought, this is exactly, I get it.
Yeah.
And from then on, kids in poverty, because they were real low income, just stole my heart. And I spent my entire career, except for taking time off to raise a family, with low income kids. Fast forward, came here to the States. They wouldn't accept my teaching credentials from Europe. Shocking. So I went back to the University of Maryland, College Park, outside Washington, D.C. And my first teaching was in a very rough part of Prince George's County. But it was a different kind of poverty. I am a full believer that God puts you in places he needs you to be to learn lessons, even if they're really hard. And this one was really hard. But a lot of abuse, a lot of prison, a lot of drugs. And it was just totally out of my box. But it was good for me.
Yeah.
Came out here to Ohio. We had a family situation, and I had to go back to work. The economy was terrible in 2007 and 8. And I didn't have a teaching license here in Ohio. But I knew with my 4 degrees, I knew I wanted to work with at-risk kids, or at-risk is overused, low-income kids.
Sure.
And I knew I didn't have time to go get a license. Xavier said, yeah, we'll give you one in, 8 months. I'm like, no, I need to. So I headed downtown Cincinnati, and I worked with the Catholic intercity school system called SICE. I'm not Catholic, but they were gracious. I think my 4 degrees made it.
Sure.
Come on in, right?
Yeah.
So I worked in that system for quite a long time. But my heart, I was an administrator. I started some preschool programs in some of their schools because I'm very much into early learning. And because we know that's the only way to beat generational poverty is education. Food, clothing, shelter, terribly important, medical care, but it's a Band-Aid for the minute to make you comfortable where you are. It doesn't change things on a huge level.
Right.
So I knew that I needed to do something else. We had a small little tragedy in our family, and I stepped out of the classroom to get my legs back underneath me. And a woman by the name of Annie Timmons, who was the executive director of the Friars Boys and Girls Club, used to be in McMillan downtown. They had just built a new Friars Boys and Girls Club in St. Bernard on Vine Street. And she called me up and said, Evangeline, we really need education besides just athletics for our kids in poverty, our poor kids. And we built a classroom onto our gym. She said, I know you're kind of stepping back, but you're the best teacher I know. That was nonsense. She was just trying to get me a job. Would you come design an after-school program for any of the 990 kids that come through our doors? So
it's a lot of kids.
Yeah, me. I'm like, sure. So we started the program in low-income high schools after school. One of the coaches and myself would go. We take computers, food. We work with the kids, and then they would practice, do their sport, whatever the sport was, whether it's baseball or basketball. And then I would go back to the facility at night, and we had kids from everywhere come. And they could come an hour before their practice or their game and come into my classroom and get help with their homework. Well, I had kids from Montessori. I had kids from Price Hill. We had all over the place. So I learned really darn fast that I needed to get a lot of tutors of all different race and sizes and things like that. So I spent a lot of time of it. You see every sorority house, every fraternity house, knocking on doors going, come help my kids.
That's awesome.
And that's how, and so the program was very successful, but I knew that it just wasn't enough. I became very, very entrenched with the idea of the United States is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and yet we still have poverty. We still have everything that everybody needs. So, and it's getting worse. So what the heck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking into children in poverty and was absolutely shocked, because I found out that we were adding kids to the poverty roll every single year. And since 2012, more kids in poverty were living outside of the urban footprint than in it.
Wow.
They was living in the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
They was living rurally. And I felt very strongly, I have a very, very strong faith. And I felt very strongly that the Lord said to me, go build a program for the kids that aren't in your city that still need all this and actually need more. Because in my research, I found out that it's harder to be in poverty outside the city limits because we don't have a bus system here. Right. We don't have things that are open 24/7. At that point, our food pantry wasn't open 24/7. We didn't have a clinic. I mean, it just went on
and it wasn't recognized, like you said. I mean, when people think of child poverty, so for some reason our minds just go towards the inner city.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. So I had to take down that misnomer, if you will, and put together something. So that was the basis or the fuel, if you will, for Nest Community Learning Center. So I prayed about it a whole lot, argued with God a whole lot. And I said, I'll tell you what, I will look into this poverty in Loveland, and because there is no poverty here.
Right.
And this was 2015. And if you're right, God, I will start this program. Right? So obviously he was right. So I interviewed first responders, police chief, fire. I went up and talked to business owners. I went up to the superintendent and said, what does this look like for you guys? And everybody was like, well, we're getting more and more low-income kids here, and we're kind of drowning, and nobody really knows what to do. The school was very significant because the superintendent at the time said, man, I love my staff. I couldn't have a better staff. But most of my teachers grew up in middle-class homes, went to middle-class schools, went to middle-class colleges, and are now back teaching. And some of their kids are low-income. And it's not that they don't want to get them. Yeah. They just don't. Yeah. Right? So I so I kept thinking, well, how many do we have? He goes, well, nobody's allowed to know. What do you mean nobody?
Right.
I mean, it's all the government stuff. So the indicator became the children that are qualified, don't necessarily take it, but qualified for free and reduced lunch.
Okay.
At that point, we added what we thought was, we took that number and then we kind of added for the kids that aren't in school yet.
Mm-hmm.
We went and I went into a database from the government and found out what they call the green zone, which is low income zones in a city, in a town, in an area it's a high collection of people that are on welfare.
Sure.
Found out that Loveland had 4.
Oh, okay.
And put all that together and came up with the estimate of about 1,500 kids.
Wow.
And to this day, nobody still believes me. We have multi-million-dollar houses and doing all this kind of stuff. So that's I decided that I was going to start an after-school program like I'd done downtown, but we would go to where all these kids lived. And my idea was to rent an apartment or a small home like up in the Heights and things like that, turn it into an after-school place so that the kids could come and there'd be a library there and help there and printers and stuff, all the stuff that your kids and my kids said on a Sunday night. Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I've got a project due tomorrow and I need this, and this
Right.
from Walmart. Right?
Yeah.
All those things, because a lot of our families don't have cars.
Sure.
Transportation, number one. So that was the idea. I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
The city of Loveland, not so much. And part of that was because of the zoning.
I was going to say, yeah.
Then, so I tried to get an exemption through HUD because both of these properties happen to be under HUD properties. Not all of them are. I went to HUD and I went to the state level and they said no. Then I went to Washington, D.C. and they said no. It didn't qualify. And if I took one of those apartments and made it into something, therefore the whole thing wouldn't qualify anymore. And this and this. So I had already quit my job. We were doing a summer program because we know that the only way that we were going to work with these kids is to become part of their part of home for them. So in the summer, we went out, summer of 2016, we went out and we played with the kids and brought them lunch because they didn't have any, because they were all on free reduced lunch. Sure. And they didn't have any. Got to know all the families, got to know all the backstories and played ball with them, did whatever, so that when we showed up in the school year, they were very familiar with us. Yeah. Plus, we were in their backyard and we were very respectful and all the rest of it. It was a tremendous success, but now I wasn't allowed to have an apartment.
Right.
And, so God and I had quite a talk. I screamed. He listened. Like, girl, you better come on.
Right. And it sounds like, you went idea. After that. You went.
With everything. Everything I had. By that time I was a single mom. I had the only money I had in the bank was a whole $68,000. And I figured I could start this and live on it for 18 months. And then after that, I was totally broke.
Yeah. Wow.
So my 3 grown kids were ready to put me in a sanctifier. You're doing what, Mom? Where's the template for this? Where is your this? Where is that? I don't know. I just know it. It's just to do.
Figure it out.
So Amy Van Stream, who did this whole, is a great friend of mine, lived behind me at the time. She was working as a school psychologist for a Catholic school, and because it was church and state, they had gotten an RV and parked it outside so that she could see the students there as a therapist, right? So she said to me, let's put this thing on wheels. I'm like, so we went in search of our first mobile classroom. It was 37 foot, had very little money. So I can tell you some of the things that we looked at.
I bet.
So we finally found one. We bought it from a really nice guy named Billy Joe. He met us in the parking lot up at Meyer, and I was going to go see it myself. She goes, "Oh no, you're not."
No.
So we pulled it all apart, and we took out obviously the bedroom. We took everything else, and made it into a classroom with a library and everything else, and showed up, and that's how we started working with our kids.
What year was that?
That was 2016, fall of 2016. We're in our 9th year. We just started our 9th year. And even through COVID, we became, here in Loveland, we worked with a lot of great other nonprofits and the school during COVID, and we became like the Pony Express because we were the only ones that had vehicles. Right now, we have 9 vehicles. I just added 2 more vehicles to our little fleet. So, and we already knew these kids, and we already knew that they were the ones that wouldn't get as many resources. And we were trying to take academic stuff out to them. And I've got some amazing pictures all through COVID about what we did. We were the only ones that were still operating for the most part. And we're also out at Claremont Northeastern School District. And we're moving, we want to add different school districts as we go forward. That being said, the reason that Nest is successful, it's the Loveland community coming together with the Loveland community to help the Loveland community. So what's raised here, everybody has nonprofits that they love overseas, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let's invest in our own community.
Definitely.
So this is how we're making all this work, and we have school districts as far away as like Arizona with a Indian reservation saying your model would really work.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was wondering, I mean, you created this thing that's amazing. You'd think, wow, that you have to have people coming to you all the time saying, how do we do this?
Yeah, constantly. But it does, so we had a great expansion plan before COVID, and then all that went to hell in a handbasket. But our expansion plan was we would come into your school district, and we would share all of our knowledge and how we did it, and and all of our procedures, and do all this kind of stuff. And we would commit to working alongside of you for 2 years. So as that's going on, I would help your stakeholders and your volunteers and things, all that kind of stuff, come in and see how this goes. Your teachers will say these kids are doing better. You can see the good outcomes. And then if you want to continue this, the program is yours and we're out.
Nice.
Right? Wow. Because it's your community. Yeah. Like when my kids here talk about Starbucks, I know exactly where it is, right?
Right.
I don't necessarily know where that is other places. And it's ownership. And we want people to volunteer like the football team and things like that, because there's such a huge mentoring difference for our kids. Because a lot of our kids don't play sports, and that's I could go on and on and on about how it's so hard to be in poverty in the suburbs, because you just literally don't fit in. We have wonderful scholarships. We have all that kind of stuff. The kids don't take care of that, don't take advantage of them, pardon me, because what happens when it's your mom's turn to have sliced oranges?
Sure.
Right?
The little things.
Or when you go away, you're in a tournament. And these are real roadblocks for these kids.
Sure.
Downtown, when I worked in East over the Rhine, you could be in a 10-block radius. And everybody that you were in community, everybody, was on SNAP cards, food stamps. Everybody, had free phones. Everybody, it's not like that here.
Right. You feel like the outsider, so you want to keep it hidden. And I have that in my schools too.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to blend in.
You just don't want to be that kid.
Right.
So anyway, do we get every kid? No. Do I wish we did? Yes. But our kids, based solely on the fact they didn't get to choose where they were born, have a harder road to travel. And if they spend time with us and know that they're precious, that they have, they matter, and they have skills and abilities that they were born with, that they can really do something significant with. We call them our little world changers.
That's awesome.
And if we believe in them and say, we'll walk this walk with you. We've had kids, we've been some of the same kids for 9 years.
Wow. Because
we go back and it's all year round because we have a summer program. And then this past couple of years, we added a neurological part to this. That how that all happened with me is a story all on its own. But I am very well versed. Some people call me an expert. I'm not. But in the neurological, the cognitive growth of a child that's had a lot of trauma, that hasn't had great nutrition, because the human brain doesn't finish developing until you're in your 20s. Girls is around 24, roughly. Boys, 55. No,
Right, I was going to say 35, yeah.
35, 40, whatever. But that's usually about 27, 28. And people don't and we are what we eat. We say that all the time physically, but it's mentally at the same time, right? Like one of the first thing we do when the kids arrive each day is we make them drink a bottle of water because they're all dehydrated from school.
Yes.
And their brain is literally sitting in the bottom of their skull. Well, you can't learn that way.
Yeah.
So we have very high nutritional standards. We also do a lot of social emotional stuff. We do sports with the kids because we know that those endorphins actually help them retain information, because the brain never forgets trauma. I am a trauma survivor, and I know what this looks like. And I know it's really hard to, I have critical high cortisol, which, toxic stress, and because of the trauma that I've been through. But the two things that toxic stress goes after a lot of things, but two things it goes after the most is memory, long and short term, and executive functioning skills. The two things in our school system you need to have to do well.
Right.
And our
trauma affects that directly.
They have nothing. I mean, this is why it's so important that teachers understand this and stuff, because we can have kids learn their spelling words on a Thursday night, upside down, backwards, use them in a sentence, jump rope and spell them. And they'll get in there and they can't bring him back out. And typically an uninformed teacher, and luckily there's less and less of those, will lean in and say to the child, you didn't study.
Yeah.
And they did. So a lot of what I do is educating other people as to exactly what this looks like. We know that your brain never forgets trauma, but what we try and do is work with the tools that we know, and my staff's amazing, and they're so sick and tired of hearing this stuff from me. But we do a lot of PDs on how we can reteach in a way that these kids can learn. Not because there's anything wrong with the teacher.
Yeah.
But it's because that's not the significant way they learn. All of us have one or two senses that are more heightened to how we learn. Boys tend to be more visual learners and girls more auditory learners. Well, if something is presented in a way that doesn't lend itself to that learning strength of yours, you're going to miss it. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean you're not smart enough to get it or you can't get it. We just need to reteach it a new way.
Yes.
So we work with the school system. Our job is to take whatever's going on in that classroom and take all this wonderful teaching and extend it back home. We kind of tease around saying we're a mobile kitchen table in the sense that when my kids were growing up, we would do homework after dinner at the kitchen table.
Yep.
Our kids don't get that. So the Nest Community Learning Center vehicle becomes that kitchen table for these kids.
How many staff do you have? You mentioned your staff before.
Well, so we have, it depends on the program, but our goal all the time is no more than one staff member to 4 kids. Okay. Which is unheard of in
that's amazing.
Program.
Yeah.
Most of them, because the state says that you can have up to 16 kids to one adult. We're not going to get anywhere.
I was going to say, you're not making much impact.
We're not, and it's frustrating, and the kids are tired after school. So we have a lot of volunteers and a lot of staff, but my staff is, I would put them up against any after school program because they know trauma informed care. They know how to teach in really wild and different ways so that the kids, get that concept.
Well, you mentioned PD. So you must have them do professional development.
Yeah, and I do most of the professional development with them. I am certified to teach. I just did one a PD with Boys and Girls Club of Cincinnati and taught to their staff of that, including neurodivergent kids into a regular classroom system.
I have them. Yep.
Yeah, right? I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm not a huge fan of the American education system. I started teaching in Europe, and I don't know if it's changed, but when I taught in Europe, until you were up to the equivalent of third grade, you had 2 educators, a lead teacher and a secondary teacher in a group of 12 kids.
Wow.
That was
amazing.
it. And then past third grade, then they loaded it up a little bit, but it was very much hands-on, one-on-one. You got a ton of attention because the secret is if you can learn to read, the younger you are, and learn to, sorry about that. I'm apologizing. So your brain grows the most. This is very general.
Yeah.
Between the ages of 2.5 to 4, roughly. We absorb the most in our entire life.
Yep.
In the next couple of years. And then after that, we are the only industrial nation that's pretty much starts government funding education at 5. And for a lot of our low-income kids that haven't had all that experiential learning, like going to the zoo or going down to the beach and being able to walk in the sand and smell it and see something, they don't have that basis. And we literally, their brain is ready, but we're pouring nothing into it. And so I'm not a big fan of the way we do things. The other thing is that we know that everybody has 5 senses. Everybody has 5 senses. All of us have 1 or 2 of our senses that are more learning sense than the other.
Right.
And what I do know, and this is what got me very involved with Dr. Jerome Schultz, who was doing a thing, and he was at one point was doing a sabbatical or something. I don't know, with Harvard Medical School, but he and I become great friends. But so I had this theory that I worked on when I was down in downtown Cincinnati. So I kept thinking, okay, if I'm learning, boys are tactile, they're visual, girls are more auditory. That's why their vocabulary is bigger. I mean, just a whole lot of things. So if I was to become blind tomorrow, my other senses would try and compensate for it. Sure. So that's why Braille works, because your touch becomes more keen, your hearing becomes more keen, things like this. So here in my little head, and I've been wrong sometimes with my theories, but this one turned out very well. If because of trauma, it has affected my cognitive development, and therefore my learning sense isn't quite as acute, then the more senses that we bring in to rewire the brain to learn these concepts, that could work.
Oh, yeah.
And it does. So we do a lot of work with our kids. Here's a great example. 9th grade, you learn the circulatory system. And for a lot of kids, all that science, the body, how it works is really, really tough. So we work with the kids to do their homework and the TED Talk that the teacher sends or whatever it is. And then we will take that child outside with a playground chalk and we'll make them draw it and then label it. And then we go back and we wipe away the labels and they walk it. And as they're walking, they tell us what it is and what it does.
Yes.
Because all of them are involved in learning. Our schools aren't set up to allow that to happen.
No, you can't do this. And like you said before, the data is there to show that more focused when you have 1 teacher to 4 kids or less.
Whatever.
Everything shows that, but our system doesn't do that. And it's because it all comes down to money too.
Well, it comes down to classroom management.
Yeah.
And so somewhere around second grade, we were putting everybody at desks or tables, and this is how we do it. And preschool, but we do that in preschool. We learn on the floor most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. Always like to lick things and set them on fire. They don't do that, and throw it. And we know they're avid learners, and then it doesn't work for us. And so if you've had a lot of trauma, so are you familiar with ACEs?
Mm-mm.
Okay. They're adverse childhood experiences. They're called ACEs.
Okay.
There was 10 of them. I think now they've actually added COVID to make 11. I don't know if they've done that officially. But we know that a lot of people have around 4, which means like a divorce in the family or this happened or that happened. And the more ACEs that you have, the less likely you're going to stay healthy. There's more disease. You are going to die earlier. I mean, there's so many things linked to, and most of the kids that we work with have at least 8.
Wow. 8?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
So because of all these things, that we've got to teach them differently. And I'm not faulting the school. We're just partnering with the school, collaborating. They don't want the word partner. Collaborating with them, coming alongside and saying, let us help you help these kids. And that's why this works.
That's amazing. So now tell us,
yes.
I know you have a lot of things going, your fundraiser.
My Dancing with the Stars.
Dancing with the Stars.
On the 18th of October.
All right. You just roll with it.
So Dancing with the Stars, this is our 6th year. We have, everybody's heard of Dancing with the Stars.
Sure.
I mean, it's been on television, whatever. So we have a group of professional dancers that donate their time to work with any community member that's brave enough. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah.
I think about it. You're going to give. We have community members. We've had 45 of them since we started.
Wow.
Give of themselves, their time, their talent, and in a lot of ways, they're putting everything out there for everybody to see.
Definitely.
For the kids that I serve, I still can't get over that. It's one thing to give me a check for $100, a whole nother thing to just, do 10 lessons and take personal time off, unpaid or pay, whatever to work out, and then come out and just
in front of everybody.
Exactly. In front of everybody. It is our biggest fundraiser. It's been very successful here in Loveland. And it's the community coming together with the community for the kids in the community.
Was this your idea? Did you
No, it was April Braddock's. She's from down south, and a friend of hers did this, and I can't remember what state it was, and it was very successful. And so when she first brought it to me, I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it seems like a lot to get everybody bought in. Yeah,
she works on it all year round, but everybody has a good time, and we do very, very well with fundraising, because the biggest thing is writing grants and things like that. It's very unusual to get grant money that'll pay tutors.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they're considered administrative costs. Everybody will pay for food. Everybody will pay for books, but, and that is our secret sauce, are the ratio and how well these people are trained and all the rest of it.
Yep.
So it's going to be the Oasis on October 18th. Tickets are certainly available. And we do lots of laughing, and we have so much fun with the whole thing. And it's so very important to our kids. And I cannot thank these men and women enough for stepping out. We have hashtag stepping out and up for our kids. And it is exactly what they are. Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? And when are they going to do it?
I can't imagine, just how much Nest is part of this community. Like, it'd be hard to imagine, like you said, who's going to do it if you guys weren't here? It's amazing.
Well, and it's, so on the, I always tease and say Loveland's, a little town with a huge heart. I would love to know what the statistics are, because I believe that we have more nonprofits that have started here. This would be a great thing to look at. Cancer Free Kids, Ohio Valley Voices, Dragonfly Foundation, in our little square miles, right? How many really great nonprofits have started to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the breath and life of this little town we call Loveland.
It is.
So it's Loveland.
That's why I started one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because of it, you can feel it here. We are truly a community that wants to. We're proud of Nest. We're proud of what has been created, and we want these things to thrive because it is. It's giving back to us. It's just a cycle. You know what I mean?
It absolutely is. And a lot of what the other thing I struggle with is a lot. We may never see the complete outcome.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know where these kids are going to go necessarily and what they're going to do. And we have got to trust on faith that if we do what we know we're going to do, we are literally changing the trajectory of their lives. And these kids deserve that chance.
Hello, Loveland. It's Emily Barlow, your local publisher of Loveland Lifestyle Magazine. It's a great time of year. So many amazing things are happening in Loveland. It's warm, it's sunny, and there's really no better place to be. And we at Loveland Lifestyle love covering all of the happenings. In addition to any new businesses opening, awesome new ventures that people are focusing on. We love covering everything Loveland, and we love partnering with new businesses. So if you're a new business and you've been thinking about working with Loveland Lifestyle, or maybe you're someone who would love to get a copy, but it's not delivered directly to your door, you can always reach out to us through our website, citylifestyle.com/Loveland. We'd love to hear from you.
Looking ahead in Loveland. As we just discussed, the Nest has its 6th annual Dancing with the Stars event Friday, October 18th at 6 p.m. at the Oasis Golf Course and Conference Center. The best part? All proceeds from the event will go directly to helping Nest Community Learning Center. Please join in on the fun as guests will enjoy an evening of dinner, drinks, and most importantly, dancing. Come out to watch as local stars in our community compete to win the coveted Mirrorball Trophy. Our panel of judges will select the winner after all contestants perform. Tickets can be purchased on the Nest Community Learning Center website. And the 2023 movie Frogman will have a special screening on October 12th at the Loveland Stage Company. The movie will start at 8:30, and it's for those 18 and over only. Tickets are available at the Loveland Stage Company website for $12. All proceeds go to Love Our Land. Don't miss this Frogman feature. And if you have any events that you would like me to mention here on the podcast, please reach out at lovelandweekly@gmail.com. We have something truly special here in Loveland. Thank you for listening, and have a great week. This episode was produced and engineered by Mike Meldon right here in Loveland, and please note that the opinions expressed in the podcasts do not necessarily represent the views of our sponsors or organization.